Good morning. I hope you had a great weekend. We just had an awesome day yesterday. I want to give a shout out to the many people that have been worked so hard to bring to you the most normal type of service we can do under the circumstances. We've had a lot of people working hard for 3 weeks now, and I think we're almost there. So we're enjoying the webcasting. I hope you're enjoying it. If you get an opportunity, just thank those that helped out. They would appreciate the note of encouragement. So I want to talk to you today about wilderness experience because that's what a lot of us are going through. A wilderness experience. I mean, we're just experiencing brand new things in a manner we've never had it before. Communication is the only real communication we're having is over the internet and through texts and social media and that sort of thing. So I want to talk to you about that. So get yourself something to drink. I've got my last cup of golden eyebrow tea. I'm running out of it, so I want to savor the last cup or two that I can get from this stash that I have. And we're going to take a look at Deuteronomy 8. It's one of my favorite chapters. As a matter of fact, the very first sermon that I preached at Warrenton Bible Fellowship in 2003 was out of Deuteronomy 8. So we're going to turn to Deuteronomy 8. Get yourself relaxed and let's start the day together in our Bibles. So Deuteronomy 8. Let me just read the first 10 verses here, and then I'll make some running comments on them. The whole commandment that I command you today, you shall be careful to do, that you may live and multiply and go in and possess the land that the Lord swore to give to your fathers. And you shall remember the whole way that the Lord your God has led you these 40 years in the wilderness, that he might humble you, testing you, to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep his commandments or not. And he humbled you, and let you hunger, and fed you with manna which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, that he might make you know that man does not live by bread alone, but man lives by every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. Your clothing did not wear out on you, your foot did not swell these 40 years. Know then in your heart that as a man disciplines his son, the Lord your God disciplines you. So you shall keep the commandments of the Lord your God by walking in his ways and by fearing him. For the Lord your God is bringing you into a good land, a land of brooks of water and fountains and springs, flowing out in the valleys and the hills, a land of wheat and barley, of vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive trees and honey, a land in which you will eat bread without scarcity, in which you will lack nothing, a land whose stones are iron, and out of whose hills you can dig copper. And you shall eat and be full, and you shall bless the Lord your God for the good land that he's given you. So this is the Hebrews' experience in the wilderness. They've wandered out there for 40 years. And while a lot of what is said here would apply to their situation, there are some principles that we can garner about how God relates to his people here. So just going out, I want you to notice in verse 2, he says, you shall remember the whole way that the Lord your God has led you these 40 years in the wilderness. And so we find out that they've had this wilderness experience. They've been wandering for 40 years. And sometimes when we're out there in the wilderness, we feel so alone. We feel like God is standing at the edge of the wilderness, watching us, maybe with his arms folded, tapping his foot until we've learned our lesson, and then we get to come back and be with him. But that's not the case at all, because he says, I've been with you these 40 years in the wilderness. He's been with them every step of the way. And so we find out that not only has God been with them, but there is a purpose for their being in the wilderness, that he might humble you, testing you to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep his commandments or not. Now, I love this passage, the phrasing here, because we need to understand God's not on some fact-finding mission. He's not trying to figure out if his people are faithful. He's showing them where their hearts are. He's adjusting their heart attitude. He's saying there's some things you need to learn, and you're going to see that by our experience in the wilderness, and it's going to be humbling. And then he said he humbled you and let you hunger and fed you with manna, which you did not know, nor did your fathers know. Now, that's an incredible statement, because when they're in the wilderness, I've got a picture of the wilderness. Here it is. There's nothing there. This is actually the wilderness at Paran, just south of the Negev. And I mean, for hundreds of miles, it looks like this. Here, it's just dirt and sky. And so they've been wandering in this wilderness for 40 years, and there's no food, there's no water. They had to depend totally 100% upon the Lord and His goodness and His grace in order to eat and drink and survive. And so God says, I fed you with manna. Now, this was food falling down all around them out of the sky, except it was food that they did not know and food that their fathers did not know. And so it didn't look familiar. It didn't look like the food that they were used to eating, but it was the only food that was available, and it was enough to sustain them. And God provided it every day. He didn't provide a month ahead of time. He didn't provide a week ahead of time. Matter of fact, the only day that He provided 2 days was on the Sabbath, so that they could rest on the Sabbath and honor Him in how they celebrated Shabbat. So if we take these lessons that we've learned about how God related to the Hebrews and apply it to our current situation, we now know that there's a purpose for the wilderness. And the purpose is to teach us to depend solely upon our Father. He loves us. He's supplying us. He is sustaining us. And our job while we're in this wilderness is to look around us and see what food He is providing for us. It's not familiar food. It's not our regular diet. It is something that God has given us for the specific purpose of turning to Him and putting our dependence and our reliance totally on Him. So cast about yourself today. Find out what God is trying to feed you. It might not look like the most appetizing thing, but it is probably the thing that is the very best for you, because that's what God wants for me and you in this wilderness experience, the very best. He has good things planned for us, brothers and sisters. He loves us. He loves us so desperately that He sent His Son to die for us. And now He will sustain us. He will feed us. All we have to do is find the food and eat it. I love you. I miss you. I look forward to seeing you sometime real soon.